Today's lesson is about surface area of 3D shapes.
In Chapter 2, we learned about perimeter and area. So what's the difference? I just want to recap. Perimeter just means it's the distance around an object, so on the outside, so one-dimensional. Area is the size of the surface, so the amount of space inside of the boundary of a 2D flat object. So that's referring to the space inside of our square here. When we're finding surface area, it's very similar to finding the area of a 2D shape. 3D objects have faces, so first you have to find the area of each individual face, then add up the total area of all the faces, and that will give you the surface area. We've also been talking about nets. So what is a net? Let's look at this Rubik's Cube. The net is essentially the 2D drawing of a 3D object laid out flat so that you can see all of its faces. There are a few different ways to find surface area. One way is by using a chart to organize your work. Let's look at our rectangular prism. Our rectangular prism is made up of 3 sets of identical faces. Our first face is going to be our length multiplied by our height to give us 10 multiplied by 4 for a total of 40 square inches. Next, let's look at our length and our width, which is 10 multiplied by 3 to give us 30 square inches. And last, let's look at the smaller face, which is our height times our width, 4 times 3 to give us a total of 12 square inches. Next, we'll double each of those totals to give us 80 square inches, 60 square inches, and 24 square inches. But we're not quite done yet. We want to find the total surface area by adding those 3 numbers together to give us a total of 164 square inches. The other way to calculate surface area is to use a formula using our length, width, and height. Our length is 10 inches, width 3, and height is 4. Next, we're just going to plug those values into our surface area formula. And now do our multiplication for our faces and add them together. Gives us the same answer, 164 square inches. Next, let's use a chart to find the surface area of a triangular prism. In this case, it's an equilateral prism, which means that our triangle has the same side lengths. First, we're going to find the area of the triangle, and we have a height of 4.3 and a base of 5. 5 multiplied by 4.3 divided by 2 gives us 10.75 square inches. Next, we'll consider the length of our triangle is 14, and the side length of that rectangle is 5. 14 multiplied by 5 gives us 70 square centimeters. For this object, we happen to have 2 identical triangles and 3 identical faces. So we'll multiply those by 2 and 3 respectively to give us 21.5 square inches and 210 square inches. And we're not done, we still have to add those together to give us a total of 231.5 square inches. Let's look at the same object, but this time using our formula. Formula here needs the information from our rectangular prism of the base and height and the length and the width of the rectangle. Let's jot those down so we have them ready to put into our formula. Our base is 5 inches. Height is 4.3 inches. Length is 14 inches, and the width of that rectangle is 5 inches. It's the side length of the triangle. Let's sub those values into our formula. And solve. And we'll get the same answer of 231.5 square inches. The last shape we're going to look at is the cylinder. To find the area of each face, we have to consider two things. The circles on both ends, area of a circle is pi r squared, and the dimensions of the curved surface. The dimensions of the curved surface are the circumference of the circle multiplied by the length. So pi r squared, our radius in this case is 2. So we have pi multiplied by 2 squared, which will give us 12.6 square centimeters. The curved surface will be the circumference, so 2 pi r multiplied by the length. 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5 gives us 62.8 square centimeters. Next, we have to double our circles to get 25.2 square centimeters, and we only have one curved surface for 62.8 square centimeters, and add those together to get a total surface area of 88 square centimeters. Let's have a look at how the side length of the rectangle is equal to the circumference of the circle. Let's solve this time using the formula. You know our radius is 2 centimeters and our height is 5 centimeters, so we'll jot those down so we have them ready to sub into our formula. Radius is 2, height is 5, and let's sub those in and solve using our formula. Resulting in the same answer we had before, 88 square centimeters. Another thing I want to point out are the two different parts of our surface area formula. So the first part here refers to the circle on the ends. And we know that because it's area and it's squared. Sometimes we'll have a question that will ask us to only include one circle. So in that case, we would just not use are 2. The second half of the formula represents the curved surface. That brings us to the end of our lesson. You can go back and rewatch the video in the Google Classroom. See ya!